we kind of explained to her that, you know, sometimes other kids, they don't have what you have, and sometimes they're upset, and sometimes they're angry, and they sometimes take it out on whoever's around them, you know. So after we sort of talked that through with her and explained that and let her calm down, the next day when she was on her way to school, she was collecting all her old toys and some artwork that she'd done. We were, you know, why are you doing this? What's going on? And she said, well, if I can give these to the bullies, then maybe they'll be a bit happier. And then maybe, you know, they won't be so mean to everybody. So we just thought that was, as parents, we just thought that was really, really awesome. So that's how this all came about, is then I started writing this little short film about this little gifted child that just wants to share love with her community, you know. So that's kind of it.
Yeah, and it was wonderful, wonderful. This is Morning with Aroha, right?
Aroha, yeah.
We're talking about, yeah. You have to forgive my United States, my American pronunciation there. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, one of the things I really liked, and I like many things about this film is you know, she gives as good as she gets, the character, you know, in the film.
Yeah.
You know, there's a scene that everybody's kind of worried about where's she at and how's she doing and is she safe. But when you see, especially with the camera angles and the shots used, they're kind of uptight and close when you're shooting her.
Yeah.
And she's fine. You know, she's doing what she's doing, right? She's
That's
on a
right,
mission. She's got her thing going. And
right.
even the scene with the boys, she kind of gives as good as she gets, man. She's kind of going back and forth with them in a way. And I just love how in the film, the art kind of brings everybody. It's not a situation of the disabled person meeting the expectations of everyone else or trying to fit in with everyone else. They actually kind of enter her world and are transformed by her world.
That's right. And that's the goal that we had set for ourselves, is to make the kids around it, make it feel like the kids around her were being drawn in to her life, you know. And that's the shot selection we followed. And then with everybody sort of, all her family, it was a bit wider, you know, so that it was like there's this emptiness that she wasn't there until the end, where, you know, finally everybody's sort of the closer, and it's what's going on around her. So yeah, we're really happy with how it's been perceived. Yes, yeah.
Wonderful. And I think it's a great way to show how film can communicate those kind of different experiences and different emotions. And well done. Thank you very much for being here and for sharing it with us. So Mulan, want to talk to you about Beautiful. It's another film using animation where you're able to play around with time and memory and themes like the changing of roles, right? She's both the daughter and the caregiver at the same time. All of those things are coexisting, are happening all at once. And that the scene, the final lipstick scene, gets me every time. I always have to wipe a little tear. So talk a little bit about the evolution of your.
For sure, yeah. Thank you so much again for having me here. And it's such a great honor to share my screen and screen it alongside these talented filmmakers. And my film Beautiful, it's based on a personal experience being the caretaker of my mother when she's going through this journey. And it was really inspired by my experience being in the awards and then witnessing all the powerful, strong, beautiful women going through this journey and witnessing how this physical change to features of their femininity really shook up their ego and then also their perception of their beauty. And for me, I really wanted to convey through the film is that beauty really lies within the perseverance and strength of your soul, not just your physical appearances, and that these challenges that they go through only make them more beautiful. And what Lawrence talked about, the kind of play with time and different timelines and the role changing, is because when I was the caretaker at the wards, and I also observed this phenomenon that a lot of the caretakers there were the daughters of the patients. And there was this really strong impression that we were giving care and taking care of our mothers the same ways that they took care of us when we were really young, and including all those hair brushing and just all the details of caregiving. And that really struck me. And that's how I think the legacy of beauty of motherhood is carried down. And that's something that I wanted to convey and capture in this film as well.
Beautifully done, beautifully done. And
Thank you.
Thank you for making it and for sharing it with us. So I want to make sure I get to everybody. We'll circle back around. Jose,
Yes.
your film was
Hi.
the last that we saw here.
Yes.
Talk about its evolution, if you would, please.
Yeah. Well, the idea was pitched to me by one of my writer friends, and I love the idea of this mute boy, this little boy who can't speak but uses his mouth to communicate and kind of create a voice for himself. And I think so many of us, especially growing up as little kids, we're trying to find out who we are. Everything is so new, everything is so strange. And so I just love the fact that in the film he comes out, and he wants to show the world a little bit of who he is. And so I love that. That's really what motivated me to do it.
And it's not to my mind in watching it, it wasn't about so much about finding himself. He knew who he was all along, but it was having the confidence and even maybe the opportunity to express it, right? To put that out in the world.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's a combination of not only finding yourself, but then afterwards being able to express that to the world, right? And to show yourself to the world. So absolutely, and I agree with you. He in the film, he knows who he is. He has this gift. He's just battling with, do I let people in? So
and taking, there's a moment, right? There's a moment of truth. It's like he could have stepped back. He could have just stood back there, and things could have continued on as they were. But he's like, no, this is my chance. You can see there's a little something going on with the girl there, right?
yeah,
He's like, all right, I got to step up.
Yeah, and that's what life is all about, is stepping up and overcoming and trying to help others, and understanding your importance and your value to your community and everyone around you. So yeah, absolutely.
And community is sometimes something you're born into. Other times it's something you create. Right?
Yep.
Shows that really well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, guys, how you doing down there in the end?
We're doing great.
Doing well? Hey,
I'm doing great. Thank you.
wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about freedom. Let's talk about being free to be. Where did this film come from? What do you want to
Do
share?
you want me to start? Well, first of all, I just loved all the films. So really honored to be sitting alongside you guys, and thanks for the curating. So it started in November in 2020. My brother asked me to meet him for breakfast, and he's a dinner guy. So I was like,
You knew something was up.
something's up. Yeah. So I said, definitely. I showed up with him for breakfast, and he said, Michael, my wife and I decided that we're going to adopt a child with Down syndrome. And he knew that I had a lot of friends with Down syndrome, and I had been doing a docuseries called As I Am for 3 years, where I got to interview hundreds of people around the world. So I thought that was really exciting news. And he said, could you just tell me about some of the people that you know who are living their lives to the fullest? People like you, Nick. And so I started telling him all about that. And after we left the breakfast, I was driving home, and I was just thinking about the fact that this new member of our family, like, what's she gonna watch? Like when she's a kid and she's growing up, what's she gonna watch where she'll see herself and say, oh yeah, because I had lots of things that I remember watching that really built me up. And while I was thinking about that, I got an email from Jordan Hart, who wrote the song and sang the song behind our video. And he said, I woke up at 3 a.m. today, and I thought, I have to reach out to you, because I wrote this song, and it was about the struggle for people with intellectual disabilities towards freedom. He had a good friend named John who has Down syndrome. When he was born, he was told he'd only have 9 years to live. And now he's in his mid-50s. He's beaten cancer 3 times. and he can still karate chop a board in half. So I listened to his song and I started to think about all the different stories I'd heard. And then I reached out to an artist who I had admired over several years to see if, Nick, you could come on board.
Yes, so I came on board with the project with Michael, and that started a year ago. When I first met Jordan, the singer and songwriter, I met him in front of the with the whole crew, and we collaborated together, and then we showed it for World Down Syndrome Day last year in 2021, and we did that virtually, and actually it turned out really well. We had a concert with Jordan, and it turned out for the best. We did it across the world. I had to wake up. I had to sit up early enough to do it, but it turned out okay. And we actually released the official video, but it was this month, last year, was when we first released the official video on YouTube. So when I got the call from Michael, I said yes right away, because, and I love working with Michael, and he's a great collaborator, and he is just a good guy to work with. So he is phenomenal to work with, and he does have amazing parents, and his father is right in front of me. And also I have
Appreciate the good word from my dad. Yeah.
Yes, and that's Michael's father in
I'll
the
pay you later.
audience. And actually, speaking of nieces, I have a niece now too, and I'm an uncle.
Free to be an uncle.
So I am now an uncle to a little girl, and her name is Lachlan Wolf. So I'm officially now an uncle, and I look forward to meeting her. Actually, I did meet her, and I held her, but I'm looking to get to know her better when she gets older, and where she can try to find her freedom and learn from her, and where she can learn from me, and of course her parents and her family. So I'm not the only person.
That's one of the, and
That's freedom.
That's freedom. And I want to say, Nick and Michael, I really like the themes that were sort of throughout this film, right? There wasn't one story. You saw, issues that are really relevant within disability communities, self-determination, disability pride was sort of there, right? I'm down. But none of that can occur really, especially in the world that we live in, without the right support. And I just really love the way that you wove all that in, into a few short minutes in a song that I can't get out of my head. It's going to be there for trying to find my, it's just going to be there. So thank you for bringing this to life. And I got to say, if your goal was to, what are people going to see? Are they going to relate? You certainly achieved it. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just really quick, sorry, I really appreciate that comment. One individual, when we were screening these films, said, oh, it's such a simple, unoriginal story. And in a way they were right, but as a disability activist, we thought that's the unoriginality that people have been fighting for decades.
Yeah, the right to be unoriginal.
The right to be in a classroom, the right to have a job, the right to get married, all of these things that are the unoriginality that we've achieved, over these years.
Yeah, the experiences, the accomplishments, the dreams, the desires, those aren't original, right? Those are universal in a lot of ways. What makes the film unique, and unfortunately, but I'm glad that you're there to do it because the world needs it, right, is who's getting those opportunities, right? And so hopefully what happens with film, right? With all of you, people see it, right? They pause, they think, even if they're not consciously aware, that door inside their brains opens just a little bit, right? There are more possibilities. Maybe the world's a little bit bigger and maybe a little more expansive than they thought 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before. So thank you. It was really an honor to, did you have something you wanted to say there, Nick?
Actually, speaking of activists, Michael, I'm also an activist for the disability community and also an activist for the gay community because I'm also gay and I fight for gay rights and for disability rights. So I'm an activist across the world and across Canada. So just so you know that I'm a gay activist with a disability and that's all about disability pride and also humanity.
Absolutely. And I think one thing we're all sort of pushing for, right? I think everybody, no matter who they are, wants to be 100% of who they are, right? And, do we have opportunities to do that, right? And I think all of those experiences and all of those things are kind of reflected in all of the films and in all of your work, right? And that's a goal that I think we all continue to strive for. And it's something that I hope we can help ourselves and each other realize. And films can open those doors. That's why I'm here, seeing films at different parts of my life that made me decide to change everything I was doing and do this work. So let's see, Isaac, it's the audience's turn. Are there folks with questions there in the audience? Now's your chance. If you have questions to ask, please. Don't be shy. It's a friendly bunch here.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, don't be shy.
Thank you. Thank you guys for the space and thank you for your beautiful films. I have a technical question for the filmmakers just to understand maybe some of the choices you made. If there's something that you feel that was particularly like your choice, like in the first film, Morning with Aroha, I was thinking about the way the magic was introduced early on her drawings and just kind of the technical pieces of how you made those choices and and what that means to you as a filmmaker.
Thank you for your question. Originally, we had quite elaborate animation attached to the film. And on the first screening, I was just, firstly I was blown away, and then I thought, this is not right. This doesn't feel right. This is in her head, so it should be a little bit, I guess, free flowing. The normal 3D animation is a bit static, I think. So we sort of pulled back from all of that and just went really simple and just really, just kept it as simple as we could, just to get that feeling across that it was this child's imagination that was coming to life, So yeah, we just felt that it was better for the film, a better look, to keep it as childlike as we could.
Yeah, and I really like the subtlety. And I, in fact, the first time I saw the film, I didn't notice it until again today. Where the pictures are hanging on the wall and they just dance a little bit. Yeah. Right? And that didn't register actually the first time I saw the film until I saw it again here. And I guess, one of the things that could happen, right, is if you show everything at the beginning, you've got nowhere to go.
That's right. Yeah.
But in this version, it builds, right? It builds to that climax.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Excellent question. Other questions? Going once? Going twice? Okay, I have something to ask of the panelists now. I do a lot of these things. And are there things that have come up in the course of either screening your films or, things that you might have expected when you began the process that either did happen or didn't happen? How were you surprised by this process? And is there something that possibly in talking about these screenings or showing these screenings, somebody's never asked you, but you always wanted to kind of bring up? Anything that you sort of want to highlight that's in your heart that we haven't talked about today to share with folks as we wrap up? Anybody?
Just for our film,
Yeah.
there was, I think we've been, I don't know how it works in film festivals around the world, but there's a single swear word in our film, and that was to show, we sort of, that's another thing that we dialed back, is the language of frustration within the family. But we wanted that there to show that, you know, even though they're a loving family, they do get frustrated with each other, and they do use strong language. So we wanted to keep that in there. But just, I think throughout the film festivals, we're sort of, because of that one word, we're not so welcomed, I guess. But, you know, that's just how the frustration in our family works anyway. Not all the time, but, you know, that's sometimes you just
Well,
have to,
and that's real, right? That's
right.
real.
Yeah.
That comes from real life, and real
Yeah.
people swear.
That's right.
And, you know, I think there's maybe a segment of the world out there that doesn't want to think about those things, but I, for one, appreciate that you keep that there, you know, because
right,
it helps it resonate. Yeah. And click.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Other things? Yeah.
I guess one thing I'd like, maybe that people don't ask about, but I'd like to just bring, so the last name in our portrait sequence was a guy named Christophe Pierrefour from France. And then it said, you know, after all those barrier breakers that never learned to speak, accomplished nothing fancy, but a life well lived. I guess I would just like to bring his name into this room one more time. He was a good friend of mine, and he sadly died of COVID. But phenomenal human being. And I think for me, the core of FreeBird was that message. We do want to highlight those people who are paving the road, who are breaking the barriers. We want people to know their names. We want them to know what they've accomplished, but we also want them to know that they don't have to be that person, that however they are, whoever they are, is wonderful as it is. And I think, yeah, so
everyone has value, and everyone is worthy, you know, of their experiences in their lives. And I love that you put that there at the end, because you don't often see that.
It's also a very important message what Michael is saying, and I agree with them. It's all about disability pride, and carry that on, that disability pride, and just celebrate disability pride, and not just at the ReelAbilities Film Festival, but everywhere.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. Yes, you have a question?
Well, a question, a comment, compliment, I guess. I always say these movies are not for disabilities, right? Like, everybody should watch these movies, and everybody can learn something from them. And I think that the fact the last line is a life well lived, like, it makes me tear up. It's like, that's what we should all be going for, right? Like, that's what life is about, and that's what's most important. And not that everything else you bring up I mean, obviously I'm very involved with ReelAbilities, like, you know, I know how important everything is, but that everybody should see for that last line, right? Like, you know, everybody accomplishes so much in this movie, right? In that short piece. But what's most important, right, is that he's there taking care of his mother, right? And it's a life well lived, and the love you see in the movie. Forget about sort of everything else, but that love.
Well, and nobody else gets to decide, or should get to decide for you or me or anyone, what a life well lived is. That's something that we should all have the opportunity to decide for ourselves. Yeah. Isaac.
I want to thank you all. Thank you for doing this. I want to add my 2 cents here, just about how every one of the films, I see such positive examples, and we need more of that in this world. And I mean, honestly, I was moved from absolutely every one of your films because of those heroic moments that exist in each and every one of them. I want to thank you for being here. We have many more wonderful films coming up today. Our next session is at 2 p.m. Our relationship shorts, we're calling them. they're just good short films. You could hate relationships, you could love relationships.
We've all got
it.
an opinion about relationships.
You could have no opinion at all. They might not even have really relationships in them. Nobody relates to one another. A big thank you to Lawrence Carter Long as well for moderating here. Please tell your friends, join us for more. We are here all week and definitely all weekends. So thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you.
And thank you.
Thank you again to AMC Networks for being our sponsor for all of our short films and Pfizer for all of our conversations. See you soon.